First, there was this trouble between me and you.
You and me?
No, not you. You.
I am you.
You and me?
No, I am you.
Stop saying that. Make him stop saying that.
Don't touch me, I'm a doctor.
Of what?
Music?
Can you fix a hi-fi?
No, sir.
Then shut up.
My headphone slipped down. Not my headphone. What is this called?
Let's go. A microphone stand?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with these things.
You've never used a microphone stand?
No. So it's confusing to me.
When you perform, you use the Kate Bush headset?
If you see some early live trio stuff, he has a contact mic on his neck. So the parts, like where he says, I love you, you love me, I don't love you, that has that weird, like, kind of man-in-a-box sound.
Vocoder?
It's not a vocoder. It's like a military communication microphone. And so it's a microphone that sits on your neck and picks up your voice through that. And so it sounds...
It's like in Catch-22, they have those.
Yeah.
Well, all microphones will do that, right? If I do...
Not very well, though. Yeah,
Can you hear it?
It's got to be a contact mic, I think.
Kind of like, how do I look? Do I look like Chucky?
You are
Sitting
kind of...
here against the wall?
Is it comfortable for you to sit like that?
It is, kind of.
Okay. As long as it's comfortable for you to sit upright like a...
Take a picture of me, Jeff.
Like a ventriloquist dummy.
Welcome to Lost and Found and Rewound, a podcast about films that we think that not many people know about, but we think are great films. I am Chris Lost.
I'm Found Jim.
And I'm Rick Rewound.
Is that what we fell on? Found Jim last time?
Mm-hmm.
I
I think I changed it.
A contrarian.
I thought it sounded better.
Already trouble.
Today's episode was about the film What's Up, Doc? And before we get into What's Up, Doc, I had some housekeeping items I wanted to go over.
Oh my gosh.
If you'll remember from last episode, I was chided by Found Jim and Rick Rewound for not having seen the original, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. So I watched that. I thought it was about as good as the remake. I hate to say it.
Oh, man.
The remake's not bad.
Oh, yeah. I guess I'll have to watch the remake. Who's in the remake?
John Travolta, a hero of mine as a young Italian boy. And a man I think is extremely handsome. Maybe I'm just the one who thinks about this, Denzel Washington.
I think a lot of people think Denzel Washington is handsome.
You don't think that's a hot take?
No.
Denzel Washington
so.
is good looking?
Yeah, I think that's a common.
I thought it might be fun to make an inventory of the films that I've seen since our last episode. And so here they are. Blues Brothers on the big screen, which was a revelation. I've never seen it that way before. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, both in 70 and 35 millimeter.
Oh, it came out in 70 millimeter?
It did, but it's just a blown up version
yeah.
of the digital print, I think, because the 35 millimeter had artifacts, which was cool. Reservoir Dogs, Inglourious Bastards, Drop Dead Fred, Miami Vice, Enter the Dragon on the big screen, Hobbs and Shaw, Conversations with the Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie, Collateral.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I just saw somebody mention that was I saw that when it came out. I don't think I saw Collateral in the theater, but I need to watch that again. That was like one of Michael Mann's first digital movies, right? It's shot on digital, right?
Yeah, because Miami Vice came out right after that.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how great a film Miami Vice was. It was panned when it came out.
I didn't watch. I don't think I've seen the movie Miami Vice.
Proof of Life.
What's that? Now, why?
Russell Crowe, Meg Ryan. It was directed by the guy who did Predator and Die Hard.
Okay.
Decent film, kind of fun. Bringing Up Baby, of course, in preparation for today's film, and Abducted in Plain Sight, which was a real roller coaster ride. How about you, Rick? What films have you seen since our last episode?
I did go through, similar to you, Both Jim and I went to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with my offspring, who's now 15, and so we're going through, and I think you said that, Chris, right? You're going through with your offspring. Tarantino oeuvre. But I only watched Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and begrudgingly Kill Bill 2. My wife watched Kill Bill 1 and 2 with him, and I did not.
See,
He already loses me by Kill Bill.
as we'll discover in this podcast series, I love Peckinpah, and the Kill Bill films are huge nods to Peckinpah. Let me ask you, are you going to show him True Romance?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like I need to watch that again, so maybe.
My son insisted on seeing it. So we're watching, he saw Once Upon a Time in America, or Hollywood, sorry. And
did I say America too? I feel like I did.
Yeah, I think we did. But then we watched Reservoir Dogs. He loved it. So now we're going to start watching the rest in order. But the next one would be True Romance, if you were to go by his universe, right? Because True Romance is in the Reservoir Dogs universe.
And that's with Roger Avery, right? So I have a whole Roger Avery thing where I definitely feel like Tarantino was better with Roger Avery.
Yeah, because it was him taking Avery off the script of Pulp Fiction. Is that right? That guy, or was it
Avery's
Reservoir Dogs?
credited on Pulp Fiction. He's not credited on Reservoir Dogs, I think.
Something was the fallout. He took his name off of something.
Yeah.
I think it was Pulp. It says like a Quentin Tarantino film.
Right. Yeah. And so Roger Avery felt like he was giving too much good material to Quentin Tarantino and not getting credit for it.
Yeah.
Which seems true, I think. I think there's a pattern. But
you're
I
a big Avery guy.
I'm not a big Avery guy. I don't think his films are better alone either. Killing Zoe is good.
Oh, I've seen that movie.
Yeah. And Killing Zoe is especially good if you realize that I think he wrote it in a week because basically he found out that somebody had a bank that he could film in for a couple of weeks. And so he wrote the script to film in the bank. So the location came before the script.
Who is in that? Is that another...
Eric Stoltz
Oh.
and a French guy.
The Professional?
No, not him. A younger guy I've seen him in other stuff, but I can't remember. And the French lady, one of the French actresses.
How many of them are there, really?
But from that era, there's...
She's like a director, too, right?
Right. Yeah.
Completely forgotten her name.
Yeah. It's terrible. The only name I can remember is...
Yeah, it was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I saw that movie.
Everybody remembers Uma Thurman's name. So maybe Avery's not winning the race there.
I'm just going to adjust my microphone for the whole podcast here because I just don't have it balanced. The weight's not working right. Sorry. You watched something else that I watched recently.
Sorry. Yeah. I forgot to mention at the top of my list, The Gambler.
Oh, right.
Which I, again, was chided on the last episode for not having seen because I had seen the Kenny Rogers version and not... And I will say, The Gambler was an outstanding film. It reminded me a lot of Thief, which, of course, James Caan was in both.
He's a powerful presence in any movie.
It's just because they were James Caan films with like a single title, a role title. But I then decided, I shared with you both, that I'm going to become a college professor and play craps because I'm really good at craps. I won $3,000 last time. Now Rick has completely abandoned the mic stand now, so this is position number 3. I'm continuing to sit on the floor like Chucky doll.
Stand up.
Yeah.
Handheld.
Should we get up a brick wall?
Exactly.
The Gambler. Did we see something else? Well, we watched
I saw something that was on your list, but you saw so many movies and kept track, I can't remember now.
Drop Dead Fred.
That's what I was curious about. That's the one with Rick Mayall. I've never watched that.
Rick Mayall doesn't like the film, I guess. He refused to do the sequel.
Yeah.
I thought he was great in it. I didn't, I got the concept. I thought it worked, but
I think it was supposed to be his big break in America, and obviously that did not work.
Hobbs and Shaw, was that the other film you saw?
No, but my younger kid is going through the Fast and Furious movies that are available on whatever streaming service they're on, and it was so amazing. Too Fast, Too Furious. I walk in, and there's a scene. Who's the guy who played like Dexter's father, and then was in the cop in Drugstore Cowboy? He's this great character actor, James something, I can't remember, but there's like the guy who died recently, but in this film, I've never seen any of these films, but he wins a race, and then the cops come and start chasing him, and then this guy, the Drugstore Cowboy actor, is standing by the side of the road by his police car, and he shoots what looks like a grappling hook at the car, but it doesn't have a cable connected to it. It's just like this claw that embeds itself in the car and electrocutes the car and makes him so that he gets caught by the police. It was amazing.
It's like a pipe, an electrified pipe.
Is
They
that what it was?
Shoot it into the engine block, and they roast the engine block. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I can't watch anymore. This is the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. But then, and then I started explaining what was going to happen, because then they bring in the hero into the police station. They start showing him this terrorist guy or something. And I say, okay, what's going to happen is they're going to say, to keep him out of jail, he's going to have to go and do some kind of driving for the police or the FBI or the CIA in order to keep himself out of jail. And my son got mad at me, and I had to leave.
I actually love that whole series. The first one, though, infuriated me because it's a total ripoff of Point Break. It's the exact same film, just using cars instead of surfboards. But it's identical, absolutely identical film. And that made me mad because I'm a big Catherine Bigelow fan.
Interesting. Point Break, I remember that movie because my parents went to see it with friends of theirs because Siskel and Ebert said it was good.
It was good.
And
It
they
was
came
really
back
good.
and they were really upset. I think it might have been one of the last times they went to see a movie in a theater because
They
it
didn't
was
like Point Break?
It was like what, that was an awful movie. And I've seen bits and pieces. I can't.
I guess your
can't.
parents are misogynists. A woman director can't,
Right. I've actually had an online conversation with someone. They actually mentioned the Catherine Bigelow effect, which actually this was my Once Upon a Time in America, or not in America, in Hollywood complaint. Jim and I, when we saw the film, all the movies, the previews were women criminals, women murderers kind of movies.
Yeah.
And
Kind of like they were just like men.
right.
Like
It's like,
well, doing, I don't know. Yeah.
we're going to let women direct movies now. This woman is going to direct a Martin Scorsese movie, except the women are all going to be shooting people in the head as opposed to men, right? It's not, and that's what the somebody online called the Catherine Bigelow effect. It's like, oh, she's an okay woman director because she directs movies that are man movies.
Well, I mean, so Catherine Bigelow doesn't do what you just described. She doesn't put women in men roles.
No, she doesn't.
She does bromance films.
Right.
And then she does a great job, obviously, with women characters, like in Near Dark.
I like Near Dark.
Yeah, the woman in that's fantastic, very well-rounded. And then Zero Dark 30, which my daughter and I absolutely love. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I have, and I seem to remember it was okay.
And What's Her Name is very strong. I mean, 'cause she's the one who solves who finds Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
So you're not a Bigelow fan, huh? Have you seen Detroit?
I haven't seen Detroit. I need to watch it.
It's a really good movie.
I'm okay with her. I'm just not Point Break. I don't know.
I love
I'll
Point
watch it.
Break.
The original
You haven't
Point
even
Break,
seen
right?
it.
The original Point Break.
Yeah,
right?
not the remake.
I'm gonna
I'll
watch
get on you. Have you seen
both.
the remake?
No, I'm
No,
going to
don't
watch
watch-
both, and then I'm going to say a couple episodes from now.
Don't you dare.
I watched the original Point Break, and it doesn't seem much better than the remake.
Don't
Seems
you dare.
about the same.
You know, one film I will say that about is Ghostbusters. The original Ghostbusters was shitty, and the new Ghostbusters is shitty. It has nothing to do with gender. They're both average films, B- films in my mind.
I don't know if Paul Feig. I'm not sure about his ability in film. I like his television productions.
Spy was okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
Blues Brothers was unbelievable. Have you guys seen this film on the big screen, end to end?
I think that was the first R-rated movie I saw in the theater with
Both of us saw.
Oh my God!
my parents. Yeah, we went to see that in 1980. Was it 81?
80, I think
80,
it came
yeah.
out. When it opens up on that grainy night view of the Joliet, like smokestacks, and then goes to the prison. I mean, it's an art film, I'd argue. It's incredibly beautifully shot. Frank Oz is in the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah, he's the
And
the guy
end,
in
I
the.
think. Is he at the end too?
Or no, Steven Spielberg is the guy at the license office or whatever. They have to go. They go to the City Hall or something, and Steven Spielberg without a beard is the guy. When all the at City Hall they have to get a license or something. The guy
that's
eating
Spielberg?
without a beard.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't
it's
know
pretty
that.
crazy. You have to watch that. But yeah, Frank Oz is the guy
at the end. I think when they
No.
isn't he at the end?
He's the
or-
guy at the beginning at the jail
gives him
giving
his
him all
wallet.
his
Right,
stuff.
right,
his
right.
clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Spielberg's at the end, Oz is at the beginning, but they both played kind of the same character, guys behind counters.
Right. Yeah. amazing. I was blown away. My son was just we've been taking all. He actually told my wife, "I've got such a burden now, Mom," and she's like, "What's your burden?" He's like, "I've been seeing all these great old films, and I've got nobody to talk to about, like his friends." He's trying to go to school and tell them about the Blues Brothers. He's like, "Aretha Franklin was in it," and his friends are just like, "Who's Aretha Franklin?" Oh well. So
my son actually wanted to watch the Tarantino movie so he could talk to the Tarantino kids at school. So apparently there are some kids at school who know Tarantino stuff, or it's a status thing.
that's interesting.
Yeah, but I don't know what movies that would be. I don't know if it's Pulp Fiction, because that was the weird thing about Pulp Fiction was the $5 shake.
Yeah, I remember.
I want to, yeah. So, she orders a $5 shake, and then John Travolta's like, "Did you just pay $5 for a shake?" And it's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Can I taste I would just want to taste what a $5 shake is like." And,
now you can
it's
get a
meaningless.
$5 shake
Yeah,
anywhere.
that's like every shake is $5.
In the Blues Brothers, we saw it at Alamo, and they brought you beer and food throughout the movie to pair with the film. And the first thing they brought out was a salad, because it says the fucking salad is $10. That's a Shea Paul joke.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So I kind of like that.
3 orange whips. Orange whip.
There was an
Orange whip.
orange whip was dessert.
Orange whip.
That was your
3 orange whips.
Yeah. It's an orange whip dessert. So speaking of goofball comedies, what madcap comedies, Rick, since you chose this film, would you like to announce the film and do your synopsis?
Yeah. Yeah, my synopsis is very short. The film we watched was What's Up, Doc? From 1972, I believe. And it concerns a musicologist, a millionaires, a government whistleblower, and a perennial college dropout check into a hotel with identical bags, and madness ensues.
There you go. That's what happened.
So I guess I should initiate the conversation, though. So yeah, why did I choose this film? I love this film. I remember seeing this when I was a kid, and I feel like it's timeless. And every time I've watched it, I've enjoyed it as a child and as an adult. And so that's why I chose it. And I feel like people don't talk about it. When they talk about Peter Bogdanovich, they talk about The Last Picture Show and they talk about Paper Moon. And this is the movie in between those two films. And some people complain that it's derivative. It's, too much stealing from other kind of 30s wacky madcap comedies. But
which they intended to do.
yeah,
right?
oh yeah, definitely. And Peter Bogdanovich was, of that generation. So we talk about Tarantino, who obviously did that. He was like the video store clerk generation of directors, right? Where they're just swiping from everything, So you're basically watching everything on, like the theme of the show, you're watching everything on VHS or Beta if you had that.
Right, if you're privileged enough to have a Betamax.
And if you worked at a video store, you could watch both. And so if there's something that was exclusive on Beta, you could watch that in the video store if you're a video store clerk. And so you just absorb all these films and mash them together. And so the film school generation, I think like Peter Bogdanovich isn't quite the film school generation, but he is kind of the same age as like Lucas and who else am I thinking of? Carrie. Stab. My memory is going. Carrie.
Nobody gets stabbed in Carrie.
No, but the director.
John Carpenter.
No, not John Carpenter, but John Carpenter. But
Halloween? Wait, that's John Carpenter.
No, Carrie and Blowout.
Oh
my God, people are screaming.
Body Double?
Body Double, yes.
Can we just name a film?
Brian De Palma,
Brian De Palma.
right. Martin Scorsese, actually, oddly enough, even though he's from that era, I don't know what he's stealing from, if he's stealing from anything. He's synthesized better so that you don't see what he's stealing from. I guess Spielberg's in the same way. He's more synthesized the films that he saw.
Oh, wait a minute. Spielberg completely ripped off
from
David Lean.
David Lean, yeah, I guess you're right.
So did Lucas. All that.
Lucas, yeah. So anyways, these guys were like movie fiends, right? So Bogdanovich was more like a journalist, right? Wrote about movies, a critic type person, but he was also a guy who just watched movies all the time and was obsessed, interviewed, famous directors, obviously hung out with Orson Welles, Jerry Lewis. Like, what's the story about Peter Bogdanovich and Jerry Lewis? Like, Jerry Lewis's wife would give Peter Bogdanovich Jerry Lewis's old suits or something, like when he was a poor, broke kid. Like like in his early 20s, he would wear like Jerry Lewis's cast-offs. So he was like a guy who was obsessed about film, hung around directors and everything like that. So saw a huge number of films. And so all these guys. So Bogdanovich is one of those guys who saw all these classic films and then was trying to, capture that in the 70s or synthesize what he saw and make films based around that. And so he's not much different than
Tarantino
in that way.
Because I was about to say my perception of Bogdanovich was that he was a film historian who actually made a movie. Like Roger Ebert wrote one film, right? Like Roger Ebert is like a critic who then wrote one screenplay. I thought Bogdanovich was the same. I thought he just didn't do much. I didn't realize he was an avid, productive filmmaker. I thought he was just like a guy who dabbled in making movies, but in truth, he was a prolific director.
Yeah, and he was big for a few years, and then he really blew it. And we can talk about that too. So that's what's really interesting to me. Again, it's kind of like talking about the Roger Avery, Quentin Tarantino thing. Talking about, well, we can start talking about it as the Peter Bogdanovich, Polly Platt thing. So
what's that? I don't know what that is.
So Polly Platt was the production designer on this film. She was also Peter Bogdanovich's wife. They were married. She helped with Targets, his first movie with, this kind of B movie.
It's like Roger Corman, right?
Roger
He was
Corman,
working
yeah.
for Roger Corman.
Frankenstein. It's monsters in it. Boris Karloff. This is so bad. I can tell my memory's going because I can't remember names like Boris Karloff. But she helped with the script on that. She's from Texas. She suggested The Last Picture Show as a book. Like, oh, you should check out this book by Larry McMurtry. You should make this into a movie. And he's like, oh, I don't know. And then he made it into a movie, Last Picture Show. She was the production designer on that. Production designer, worked, was married to him when he made this film, What's Up, Doc? Paper Moon, same situation. Then he dumped her for Sybil Shepherd, and I would argue that Peter Bogdanovich hasn't made a good movie since then. He's made interesting movies, and he's gotten some. There was a recent one, or maybe in the past 10 or 15 years, about the murder on the boat that William Randolph Hearst.
Cat's Meow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I haven't watched that.
That was pretty good. But Mask, I just watched Nickelodeon, which is a really strange movie that came out a couple years after Paper Moon.
Yeah, John Carpenter did the same thing. He threw his wife. His wife was his main producer and totally in control of the set and everything for him, and then he dumped her for
in the films,
Catherine Deneuve
and Adrienne Barbeau.
Yeah. But then his ex-wife continued to be his producer. So that's the thing, is if you're going to dump your wife, keep her on as the producer.
Marcia Lucas, the reason why the first Star Wars film is good and the rest of them are not. You heard me. You can fight me on that, is because she basically made that movie in the cutting room. She was an editor, and she edited that film. She actually left him. It was...
She left him.
Yeah, she actually was the one who jilted. So
Which
Lucas
had a resonant impact on the film industry because he had to sell half his empire to pay her, and that's how Pixar became an independent entity. Did you know
really?
that?
I didn't know that was part of the divorce lawsuit. Yeah,
he sold Pixar to Jobs, and then he sold a bunch of things, and I know that's how Pixar broke. Well, they were the computer division of ILM. And he sold it to Jobs because Jobs wanted to sell their rendering software.
Right.
And then to prove the strength of the rendering software, they started making films, and Pixar was born. So thank you for divorcing George Lucas.
Other stuff about Polly Platt. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Polly Platt was she a
centerfold?
No,
Polly Platt is not a Playboy centerfold.
Nope. She worked in Hollywood production and everything like that. So she recommended Last Picture Show. She told James Brooks, the director, she worked on, I think she was the producer on Ordinary People or one of those James Brooks films.
Oh, yeah.
So she did production after. She told James Brooks, you got to check out this guy. He writes this comic called Life in Hell. This guy, Matt Groening, you should hire him to do something for the Tracy Ullman show. She's
really?
Yeah, she's the one who had read Life in Hell, the comic strip, and so she's partially responsible for The Simpsons. She also, being from Texas, she was a big fan of this short film by Wes Anderson called Bottle Rocket. Have you ever seen the original Bottle Rocket that he made in school with...
No.
It's like a 10 or 15 minute film with both Wilson brothers, and it's basically a short version of the full-length Bottle Rocket. So she saw that short film and said, this is great, and she got the money together to create to produce a full-length version of Bottle Rocket.
Another James Caan film.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. So she's kind of one of these unsung people, and then, so, yeah, and to see, you can just see the pattern is right after this, her and Peter Bogdanovich separated, and then his films, there was a big nosedive.
So
or they just weren't popular, and they're not that great. Well, the ones I've seen, they haven't been that great.
So behind every great director, there's a woman who actually is doing his job for him.
Right. Well, it's that idea, and I'm a firm believer in the collaborative idea of filmmaking. Right, that auteur theory. These guys were obsessed with the auteur theory, right? Because all the French critics were, talking about that, and Bogdanovich was, Orson Welles crazy. He's Bogdanovich's. Have you seen what's the Orson Welles film that finally got finished? Another Side of. I just watched it. I can't remember the name
Wind
of that
in
either.
the title?
Yeah, Wind. The Other Side of the Wind. What is it
I
called?
think it's something like that.
Bogdanovich is in that, right? So he's totally into the Orson Welles, kind of auteur theory, but it's, the director is God thing. But I think it's obvious that there's a lot more to it than just the director. It's the team.
Now I want to know when Coppola got divorced.
Did he get divorced? No.
No?
They're still together. Yeah. Coppola, I'm not sure what happened with him.
Oh, he didn't get divorced, huh?
No, they almost did. I mean, that's what's interesting about Hearts of Darkness is seeing how crazy it got. And then Eleanor was directing the documentary.
Right.
So all that footage was her.
I don't mean to correct you, Rick, but Coppola did get divorced on December 9th, 2003.
Oh, really? Okay.
She divorced Spike Jonze.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. I know
Oh,
that.
wrong Coppola.
Yeah, wrong Coppola.
Whoops.
That I know about.
Well, what are you going to do? Oh, the other film I saw was... the other film I saw was a Sofia Coppola film, and was that the one that it's the one about the Chateau Marmont. It's really good. I forget what.
Oh, yeah. I
title of
haven't
it
seen
is.
that.
It's really good. I love Sofia Coppola and Catherine Bigelow. But, I'm just showing my... See, you guys hate Italians, and I like Italians, so...
What?
Both of these people are Italians.
Oh, okay.
You're on them. Let's see. What else we get? Jim, we skipped over your film. What have you seen
Oh,
since... Or do you not...
Oh, we've already started talking about the movie, but we didn't talk about... Yeah, we... Okay,
I
so
only
this
saw-
goes back
yeah,
to...
I only saw I saw the Seagull's Laughter, which was an Icelandic movie.
Oh, my gosh.
It was actually ties in because it is all women. It's actually it's pretty much all women in it. The main characters. There's a few extraneous men. The characters are very secondary, so it definitely ties into this what we've been talking about. But it was great because of that partially. It's like Iceland in 1950. It's kind of like a weird. It slightly reminded me of. Well, it's ironic. It reminded me of like Woody Allen. Radio days. It's kind of like that, but it's all from the women's perspective. And it's 1950, just after the war in Iceland, and this woman goes back to her hometown, this small town in Iceland, and it's kind of a comedy drama, and there's all kinds of, she's really exotic because she's lived in America, and she has come back and has all these dresses and things and is looking for a new husband and throws the town into turmoil. It's this sleepy little town, but it's all really great characters, and it's like from 2001. And
Like The Wicker Man?
it's very, yeah, I guess you could say, sure.
Kind of like Wicker
It's
Man
an
meets Local Hero.
Local Hero?
Right, yeah, it's very. Reason why I came across it was because I was looking the director. A movie I just saw too. I guess it was probably a couple months ago. It was a newer movie called A Woman at War, which is another Icelandic movie. But the director of that is an actor in The Seagull's Laughter. So that just came across this movie because he's an actor. I just was looking him up, and he's also an actor. But Woman at War is good too. That's a newer movie. That's another Icelandic movie. But
So the Icelandic film industry has got to be about like 10 or 12 people, right?
yeah, obviously, yeah. I think they're definitely overlapping.
It's like the music
Characters.
industry, and everything in Iceland is these tiny little groups of people working on each other's projects.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah.
Direct flights have opened up between Kansas City and Iceland.
Wow.
So-
They're like $20 or.
Yeah,
a
it's
while
like
ago
20,
I heard
it is $20.
one of those-
We should fly over there and meet those people. They're probably at the airport.
A guy I work with is going on a trip to Iceland next summer.
Is he driving to Kansas City and flying there?
No, I don't think so. He said there were 3 tiers of packages. There was the package where they do everything for you and take you on a trip with, you're in like a tour group. And then there's the second one where they kind of get your car and where you're going to stay for you, but then you drive around by yourself. And then there's the one where you just go there and then you're on your own. And so they got the middle one because they didn't want to be stuck in Iceland with like 10 strangers for a couple of weeks. But again, it's got to be a small place, right? It's not much to...
I've heard they're getting annoyed. Like they, obviously they love tourists because it's definitely they need tourism.
They're
But
bored.
but they're getting annoyed with are they? What are they called? The people on Instagram, like taste makers. What are they called? The people who
Tastemakers. That's it.
the Instagrammers who are have tons of followers and they're
It's called
traipsing
something else though. You're right.
Yeah, they're
Influencers.
Influencers, yeah,
right?
there you go.
And so they're getting very annoyed with these people are going off piste. You're going like off trail and destroying. It's a very fragile ecosystem, and you're not supposed to wander around off like you're
right.
saying by yourself. And they're getting annoyed with these people like trying to get these great photos of themselves, and they're just getting their like renting 4x4s and driving off across the tundra and destroying all this stuff and getting stuck and
falling into crevasses or
Yeah,
whatever they are,
yeah.
the seams with the steam in them, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're getting annoyed with the
But
tourists.
they should tell those guys how many followers they have, and they won't be so annoyed. Peter Bogdanovich. Oh wait, Jim. So you saw 3 films?
I only saw one really. I think it was just the Seagulls. Well, I saw
Once Upon
Woman
a
at
Time.
War. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Well, then what media have you been consuming? Because you consume media more rapidly than anyone I
It's
know.
just like TV, more like not weird things, but just stuff on YouTube, obviously, but like British television, I guess.
I haven't
Like
looked at
British,
Taskmaster. I've gotten through all of Taskmaster. That's a very popular. It's
Finally.
about, I think, 8 series.
Now
in
we can
Britain.
talk about it.
There's an American version of it with what's his name from who did the theme to Comedy Bang Bang.
We'll just name people by their
Reggie,
accomplishments.
Reggie
today.
Watts,
Wow.
which I haven't watched. I haven't watched the American version, but the original is very funny. It's just this kind of they do a whole season. The whole season is the same, like 5 comedians, and they have to do these ridiculous tasks. And it's just a contest, and every week they have to go through these. They're these filmed contests they do, or and.
Is it scripted or is it a reality show?
No, it's reality.
Oh.
It's
Cool.
Yeah,
So yes,
Yeah.
it's scripted.
yeah. It's definitely
It's a scripted
exactly.
reality show.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's entertaining. So I watched most of those.
My wife, she had a theory about you, Rick, in this film.
Here we go.
She says that you obviously like the manic pixie
Dream Girl. Oh, I was going to bring that up if she didn't.
because she caught me watching Bringing Up Baby and was like, "Why the fuck are you watching? Who are you?" She thought I was cheating on her because she's like, "What woman is making you watch this?" I said, "I'm doing research for our podcast," and then I told her you picked What's Up, Doc, and she says that type is the Katharine Hepburn in Bringing Up Baby. She says, "Bub," and What's Up, Doc, Maude and Harold and Maude, Holly Golightly and Breakfast at Tiffany's, and she says, "Very interesting. Rose is totally like that." Would you agree?
Maybe, but I don't like. So I watched Bringing Up Baby after you mentioned you were watching Bringing Up Baby. I watched it again. I find Katharine Hepburn slightly irritating in that film. Not slightly. I don't like her. Barbara Streisand, who I don't particularly like. I do like her in this film, and so. But then, yeah, the like Breakfast at Tiffany's. I'm not into that. So it's. I was trying to question the manic pixie, whatever that is.
So you're saying a strong-headed, funny Jewish woman would not be an attractive
Sure,
thing for
sure.
you,
I don't.
Rick?
I don't know if my type is Barbara Streisand, though. I guess, yeah. No, I could see that.
I was just calling out a stereotype. Trying to make the pieces of the puzzle fit. My wife, I was watching Bringing Up Baby, and I realized that my wife is a lot like Katharine Hepburn in that movie. But then I also I took my son to see The Warriors. I have to bring it up once a podcast.
Which I have to mention again. I've never seen.
Oh my God, you guys, you give me shit for not seeing Pelham.
Who
taking
did
Pelham
I
once a
just read about where The Warriors was their favorite movie? I should have made a note because,
Why would you not make a note?
oh my God, it was somebody where it was like, oh, that's so obvious, but
So great film, and in it, I took my son to see it in the theater, and then there's this scene where the girl comes down. I forget what her name is, but she looks like my wife. She's built like my wife, and I was like, wait a minute. Wait, it's like when something that obvious kind of hits you over the head. It's like when I was watching It's a Wonderful Life and was like, oh, this is where I got all my concepts of what a good person should be like. I don't know. Anyway.
yeah, you do wonder if these things imprint on you when. It was Johnny Ramone. Johnny Ramone's favorite movie was The Warriors. That's what it was.
Thought it was going to be some profound.
That is profound. Johnny, the guitar player,
Right,
you know, who also voted for Nixon in 1972. He's a fascinating character.
he voted for the Warriors.
Yeah,
as well.
he was a Republican, for a lifetime Republican.
Well, he probably died rich.
He did.
The domestic gross of this What's Up Doc was $66 million.
Oh yeah, it was a hit. So this is the problem: is this is not an obscure film. I feel like it's of its time. It was huge. Like certain people, certain age would remember it, right? When it came out, like adults. So somebody 20 years older than us, right? In fact, I've had conversations with a music professor who loves the film and actually quoted, "What are you a professor of? Musicology. Can you, or music? What are you a doctor of? Music." And the judge says, "Can you fix a hi-fi?" And he says, "No." And he says, "Then shut up." That guy just loves that line. Thinks it's the funniest thing in the world.
Well, I had never seen this film. I'd heard of it. I'd seen it on the, actually, oddly enough, I'd seen it on the rental movie shelves at Showtime.
Yeah.
And was gonna get around to it. That and SOB, I never got around to those two films, but we always eyed them.
Yeah.
I thought it was a Woody Allen film. Clearly not.
Yeah. And so
It definitely would. I don't know what people now, young people now, would think of, but 20 years ago, like it definitely in the 80s, it probably looked pretty unappealing, or it'd be just kind of square, or just like, what is this? Or
Yeah.
because Ryan O'Neal's fame, definitely very specific couple of years. Barbara
It's-
Streisand, but as an actress, I don't think.
and it's
Even-
an old fashioned movie,
Right.
or it's an imitation sort of an old fashioned kind of thing. So it's twice removed. It's not it's not an old fashioned movie, but it's imitating one. So
Yeah, so it's kind of like the same thing you were talking about, how your kid can't talk to anybody about the Blues Brothers, right? It's kind of like if you were a kid who watched the 3:30 movie, and so you'd see all these 70s and 60s movies, some of which we're watching now in this series, right? But you, like other kids, maybe wouldn't be as into movies and know that and be into it. So I think that's probably where I found out about this film. To me, it feels like a 3:30 movie, the kind of movie they would play after school before the news came on.
Well, $4 million budget, $66 million. That's a huge return.
Yeah, it was a hit. Are you basically telling me that this does not fall into the parameters?
No, that doesn't. No, I mean I don't. I mean I think I consider it an esoteric film. I don't think people. It's not like the Maltese Falcon or something that resonates through time. I don't even
Yeah.
think it's like Bringing Up Baby, where that film might resonate a bit more than What's Up Doc.
So this is the thing about What's Up Doc is, again, I can force my children to watch it, and they watch it, and they actually, the 15-year-old will begrudgingly watch it, but he's watched it so many times now since he was little. He'll watch it again or come down and watch it, and he'll start laughing because he remembers certain things like, "Oh, I know what you mean. I hate it when anyone even goes near my igneous rocks," you know. It's lines like that, or "use your charm," and then he trips the woman, you know, stuff like that. The kids love, right? And so, but Bringing a Baby, I can't make my kids watch because it's black and white. And that's really the thing now, is that, like, I find I used to love watching black and white movies, but we had a black and white TV, right? So I didn't know the difference for a long time. And now I think it would be impossible to get a kid. It feels like, at least in my family, in my environment, get a kid to watch a black and white movie voluntarily or even involuntarily. Like I haven't even been able to force my kids to watch black and white films.
I lucked out because one day my son came to me and he said, "Dad, you know how when you say you're going to take me to a movie and I tell you I don't want to go," he's like, "Always take me." I was like, "Okay, I'm going to remind you of this deal." So like I haul him off to black and white. Yeah, the funny thing about the black and white TV, it's weird for me to see Belushi era Saturday Night Live in color because I just remember it all being black and white. At least all we had was a black and white TV in 1977.
I'm trying to remember the author who talks about, he wrote this whole article about the time David Bowie was Ziggy Stardust on Top of the Pops, how everybody in England talks about that moment when David Bowie showed up on Top of the Pops dressed as Ziggy Stardust, and it was like a lightning bolt through the TV, and he talks about the colors and everything like that. And after he wrote the article, his dad said, "We had a black and white TV." Read the article and was like, we had a black and white TV. So it was the exact opposite. It was like his memory of it was full color, right? But they didn't have a color TV until the 80s.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That shows you how great as he was.
Well, there were also magazines and probably photos, and so you just color in it. Maybe that's
Sure.
probably what it was. Anyways, sorry.
Did you do any research on the songs in this film? Jim?
Not really. It didn't.
Does it have a
said
soundtrack?
The soundtrack was like the guy was uncredited, and well, there's lots of references. They're all musical, kind of in like jokes, right?
Cole Porter.
Yeah. There's like some stuff from Warner Brothers cartoons. There's a little bit of references. I think there's something, some like Carl Stalling.
So the one thing I read is that there's no non-diegetic music. So there's diegetic music, which is part of the scene, and then there's non-diegetic music, which is soundtrack. And except for the opening credits and the ending credits, there's no music that's not in the scene. So like anytime you hear music, like the elevator, right? Elevator music happens.
It's what the characters are hearing, or it's within the world of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's fancy film school terms, diegetic and non-diegetic. So that and I watched it this time, and it's true because she sings in the middle
live.
Yeah.
I heard that Bogdanovich made her sing live because he wanted, when she was moving around, to seem real.
Yeah.
Like, you know how it sounds. You can kind of tell when people are lip syncing when they start doing some physical things, and the audio is perfect.
And I'm sure by then she was pretty uptight about performance. Well, no, but she performed live and everything like that. But I feel like she's one of those perfection. I think at least from what I've heard about recording,
control.
Yeah,
how she sounded.
Yeah, very specific about getting something to sound right. So to have her not be able to control the music, pre-record it, that would be a big ask. That's good.
Yeah, I had some stats here. Well, one's a little weird. Bogdanovich is Serbo-Croatian, and that's allegedly the accent of the very weird dude.
Kenneth Mars.
Yeah.
Hugh.
And I had brunch with a Serbo-Croatian last Sunday. So
yeah?
I don't know if there's any.
Wow.
I don't know if there's a connection there. First American film to credit stunt people in the credits. There were a lot of stunts in this film.
Yeah, they really went all out.
And the first British film to credit stunt people, and it was Moonraker.
Moonraker, really? Wow, that took them a long time.
Yeah, 1979 versus when this film was made. This is Babs's fifth film. She was 4 years into her career at this point. Yentl was 11 years away, and her appearance on Miami Vice was 16 years away.
So basically her career is BYAY, before Yentl, after Yentl?
Before Yentl, and
okay.
after Yentl was Miami Vice. Before Yentl was What's Up, Doc?
And this, I was surprised that this is pretty much Madeline Kahn's first movie, or it's introducing Madeline Kahn.
The more I watch this film, the more she's my favorite part of the film. It's like amazing that it's her first film. There's a story that Mel Brooks was on the set to recruit people. That's why she's in
Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein, and then what's his name? The guy who plays the judge.
Oh yeah,
Liam.
Yeah, they're all the same.
He's in Blazing Saddles. I think one other person is in Mel Brooks films. Maybe not, but yeah, he definitely saw her in this and was like, oh, I got to get her in my movies. The fact that and if you listen to half of her acting is making noises. She's not actually saying words. It's like so many times she goes, or then is yelling. Yeah, like the range. It's just like you could watch just her performance in this film. It's amazing. She's good, and she's in Paper Moon, and she's good. She just does regular kind of acting stuff. In this film, though, it's like where you can see how she could be a comedian also, and not just an actress, right, or an actor, right? She's definitely. Yeah, it's just amazing. Like every time I see her, I just start laughing because the faces the way her expressions, her reactions or lack of reaction, or just the way her repulsion. Yeah, it's all amazing.
She did also remind me of the fiancé in Bringing Up Baby. She did a good job of but she was impressively commanding of her performance, being her first film. You'd think you would be scared being around all those stars, and she really kind of blew them off the screen, really.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. This was Ryan O'Neal's seventh film. He was 1 year away from making Paper Moon, 3 years away from making Barry Lyndon, and 9 years away from making So Fine. Which was the first sex scene I had ever seen in the movie theater.
I've never seen that. That's the movie about the jeans that have exposed buttocks, right?
He ripped, so he was having an affair with a woman who was married to Richard Kiel.
Jaws from Moonraker.
Best known
Is he
as
in Moonraker?
Jaws in the Spawn films, The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker.
Moonraker, right. Okay, that's his second.
There's that Moonraker connection again. He was also in Cannonball Run 2. But anyway.
Ryan O'Neal or Richard Kiel?
Richard Keel was in Cannonball Run too. So was actually
Ryan O'Neal in any of the Cannonball or
no, but Roger Moore was.
Roger Moore
as Roger Moore or as James Bond. I can't remember. He was
probably not as James Bond. Ryan O'Neal was never in a. He was okay. So I saw Nickelodeon. Both Ryan O'Neal and Burt Reynolds are in Nickelodeon. Anyways, go on. And Peter Bogdanovich directed that film. Anyways, go on.
Interesting. No, that's all I had. I was just trying to draw a connection between Moonraker and Moonraker.
And, yeah, so Ryan O'Neal. We actually saw Ryan O'Neal in person once, Jim.
He came to one of our shows.
Yeah, but I
think he left before we played, though.
Yeah.
He just was there for the opening band.
How many years after So Fine was that?
It was The Zero Effect, which is a great movie. Have you ever seen it?
No.
It was him and Ben Stiller were at the show.
And it stars Bill Pullman, if I got the right Bill, as kind of like a Sherlock Holmes-like character. It's one of the director's sons directed it. Is it Jake Kasdan or is it the other other director's son directed it? They were in Portland making this movie, and the opening band knew them.
Summer Camp. Summer Camp were on Madonna's label.
Right. So they had some connection.
That's what we were figuring. It's like, it's some kind of Warner Brothers
they knew
movie. Connection with some of the people, promo people are like, one of our bands is in town and these guys, and somehow, I don't know. We were just speculating. That's why these movie stars showed up.
And do you know what night that was? I feel like that was also the night that episode of Ellen where she came out, wasn't it?
It was.
Crazy night. So we're playing a show. Ryan O'Neal and Ben Stiller are there. They leave before we go. I spend the whole time before the show freaking out and thinking, should I go talk to Ryan O'Neal? This is one of my biggest regrets in my life.
You should talk to him about The Driver.
Should I talk to him about The Driver? Should I talk to him about What's Up, Doc? Because What's Up, Doc, I love The Driver. Ryan O'Neal, I don't know what it is. And Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon.
Again, he's not a good actor. I don't think he's a good actor, but there's somehow, and he's good in Paper Moon too. I guess he is a good actor. He was a good actor until he got fried on whatever he got fried on. He's even good in this movie Zero Effect.
I feel like Tatum O'Neal blew him off the screen in Paper Moon.
Yeah. So but Ryan O'Neal in The Driver.
So you didn't go talk to him?
No, I didn't. I should have. That's one of my
regrets. Did they stay for your performance?
No, they did not stay for our show.
Oh.
They were long gone. I think they stayed for the opening act. Right?
Ryan O'Neal was dancing though. To Summer Camp. He was in the front with some.
And I was going to say he must have been pretty old by that time, but he's probably he was our age.
He was like 10 years younger than us at the time. Yeah.
That's one thing I looked up. The guy Liam Dunn, who played the judge in this film, plays the priest and the reverend in Blazing Saddles. He died when he was 59. He was 56. When this movie, What's Up, Doc was made. So that character is closer in our current age than Barbara Streisand, was at that time. Like Barbara Streisand's 20-something in the film. We're almost as old as the guy playing the old judge.
Yeah, we were identifying with the judge character.
But he got cast all the time because he looked older than he was. He had that Judd Hirsch effect. Like Judd Hirsch has looked the same for 50 years.
Well, and what's his name?
Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley has always looked old.
So my thoughts about Ryan O'Neal are maybe he's kind of that. He's such, in some ways, so inert in a lot of the films. His delivery, his expression. Like at the end of this film, he smiles. You see him when they're talking in the airport. He actually smiles like a person, but the rest of the film, he doesn't laugh. There's very little emotion.
He's a mannequin for the film.
Barry Lyndon, definitely, I haven't watched it in a while, and I love Barry Lyndon, but he feels like a placeholder in that film. And his character's supposed to be that, and that's why people, I think, hate Barry Lyndon, maybe. But I love it because of how sterile. Yeah, that film is so slow and not sterile, but like clean. It's a weird film. If you watch Barry Lyndon,
I loved it. Yeah, I love it.
There's something about it though. It's cold. It's a cold film in a weird way, even though it's so warm. Visually, cinematically, right? But it's kind of directed, right? There's control. You see the control in the film. The film is completely under control, right? And so I think that's where Ryan O'Neal thrives. And then The Driver. He said, what is it? He says 70 words in the whole film.
Right.
I mean, really, he's incredibly inert in that film, and it's a great film. right?
He does a great job. I mean, maybe that is Hitchcock felt like actors were cattle. Of course,
Thing is Hitchcock, yeah.
he used Jimmy Stewart and
Yeah.
Cary Grant. I mean, he used great actors. And Cary Grant in Bringing Up Baby, essentially trying to do the same thing, be a bookish nerd, but did it so incredibly better than Ryan O'Neal in this film. Some actors can transform themselves into what the character should be.
Yeah.
And some people just are what the director wants to see
Yeah.
on screen. I think Ryan O'Neal is a good example of that. I've never seen Love Story, so I don't know.
That's the thing is he was a big star that wanted to work with great directors, and it was right at the time when the great directors, first off, wanted to have big hit films, right? And then they also needed a star to make their next film, right? So it wasn't like Stanley Kubrick. I think it was starting to become a hard sell, right?
To work with him or to get...
No, just kind of like, well, no, also it's like, oh, you can't just make a Stanley Kubrick film, you have to have a star, right? Even though that's not really true, but it's kind of like with Bogdanovich too, is like they needed, like to make the next jump as a director at that time into like big time director, right? Like their heroes. So I think they needed to work with stars. They couldn't just be famous because they were directors, because people still didn't believe in that idea in the early 70s, even though that's the way we look at it back now, right? It's like, oh, everybody talks about Brian De Palma and George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and Peter Bogdanovich and all the...
Well, Reservoir Dogs got made because of Harvey Keitel,
yeah.
right? And Ryan Gosling does a lot of that. Now he'll do indie films. There's that one director where he does all those like Neon Bible and... No, I'm getting things mixed up. Neon Demon, I think, is one of them. And then he does a film that's a lot like The Driver. I think it even has a title
you're
like
talking
that.
about, Drive. You're talking
Drive,
about
yeah.
he's the Swedish guy, or is he a German guy? Yeah, Drive. Yeah, Ryan Gosling?
But yeah, so those
Yeah.
films I think get more attention because he's in them. I think, so maybe
it's
Ryan
that-
O'Neal maybe does the same thing.
It was that same model. It was kind of like, oh, these big stars wanted to work with these cool directors, right? And so it was that era of that thing happening. And so Ryan O'Neal was that guy for a while. He was a huge box office star, and then he did these films, and so it worked for a while. But
Right.
then it was like Ryan O'Neal's star fell. The movies weren't good. Bogdanovich, kept doing movies with Ryan O'Neal, but they stopped working. Right? They
because he
stopped.
got rid of his wife.
I think so. I believe. I don't know. There's something to be said for
No,
that. when you
I
see-
believe in that
yeah.
theory. The references to, I started writing them down, Bringing Up Baby. He initially tells her to be quiet. He's like, I just need you to be quiet. Cary Grant says that. He says it Ryan O'Neal says in the beginning and the end of the film. Cary Grant does that as well. The torn jacket, of course. The almost kiss scene where she kind of leans in for it and he doesn't give it to her.
Yeah.
Her hanging off the ledge that happens at the very end of Bringing Up Baby. And
That's true.
Cary Grant's actually was a trapeze artist, so he does some masterful. Actually, that was the interesting thing about both those films is there's clearly scenes where Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant are doing stunts. He's riding around in a car that she's driving, similar to them riding around on the bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
In this film, I was surprised at how the actors were doing things that were pretty dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
What do I have here? Oh, the singing together happens in both. In Bringing Up Baby, it's that song. Something dun, 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 dun,
Baby.
baby,
Yeah.
and then jumping on the bike, like jumping on the car, So there's just a lot of nods to Bringing Up Baby. Buck Henry wrote this film. Actually, speaking of the old Saturday Night Live,
Yeah. So the
And Catch-22,
Yeah.
which the guy,
Austin Pendleton. Yeah.
is
So the Buck Henry thing. Buck Henry, wrote the script for the film of Catch-22. Austin Pendleton is Orson Welles'
in
son-in-law in
Oh, really?
in Catch-22. So there's the Orson Welles Peter Bogdanovich connection. So Peter Bogdanovich, I think Peter Bogdanovich was hanging around that shoot probably.
Yeah,
I feel
started
like
hearing about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were like in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
They filmed. They had all the planes and stuff, and they were down in Mexico and for months, and people were hanging out. Yeah, I remember hearing.
So Austin Pendleton. So Austin Pendleton's a person. To me, he's like the equivalent of Bud Cort. And so Bud Cort, who was in MASH and then was in Harold and Maude, and then just like you don't see him again. He's like in a bunch of 70s movies and then disappears. Austin Pendleton was the same kind of way. Austin Pendleton, I looked up though, is in this film Simon, which with it's Alan Arkin's, I think it's only directing. Or no, Marshall Brickman. I can't
I've
remember.
seen Simon. The
Simon.
Little Brothers brought assignment over for us to watch.
with the So Austin Pendleton's in that. He's also the assassin in the Muppet movie, and then he shows up in Searching for Bobby Fischer. But it's like, I loved this film, What's Up, Doc? And it's like when I was young, I started, recognizing actors and everything like that, and it was like, you'd wonder what happened to Austin Pendleton. It's like, what?
Is that the guy that became Jason Schwartzman?
Yeah, he does seem Schwartzman-like. And so, and Austin Pendleton being from Catch-22. And he's great in this film, that character. And that's what it is. That's what's great about the film. And what harkens back to those 30s screwball comedies is the character actors. Wow. But also, not just Buck Henry. So Buck Henry, a lot of times, I think, would come in and would be the script doctor. And so I think, it definitely...
That's what it sounded like. This was written... He came in, last.
Yeah, because...
It was written by two other guys.
Yeah, David Newman and Robert Benton. So David Newman and Robert Benton wrote Bonnie and Clyde, wrote Superman, the Superman with Christopher Reeve, and then Robert Benton was the guy. This is a great 70s movie with called The Late Show with Lily Tomlin and
I think I've seen that movie.
Art Carney. So when there was that Art Carney renaissance in the 70s, that film,
the Carney Sons.
Harry and Tonto,
and then The Late Show, which Robert Benton directed, and Robert Benton did Kramer versus Kramer too.
Well, this film was originally written for Elliot Gould.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so there's that book, the reading about that.
And allegedly before Bogdanovich was on, and then when Bogdanovich took it over, I think that's when he probably rewrote the script with Buck Henry to make Babs the character that Gould was going to play. I read something that said Gould showed up on the set and was very aloof or something, or was like...
Crazy, And so this is the thing, so we're going to watch one of my other recommended films is directed by Anthony Harvey, who was the director on that project, with Elliot Gould, who was married to Barbara Streisand.
Yeah. His ex-wife took the role at that
point. Right. But I've also, like Bogdanovich said, the only thing we took from that book, because I read what the book it's supposed to be based on, it sounds really dark. So it's like, I don't see how this could be this movie. And he said the only thing they took from it is that the main character in the Elliot Gould movie was based on had been to a lot of different universities. It was like, we took that idea from it. And basically there's nothing else in the film about that.
I thought you were going to say the bag switch, because the bag switch doesn't have an analog to bringing a baby.
But it's from another... there are other movies like that, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's not just bringing a baby. It's bringing up baby elements, but then there's all other kind of Howard Hawks and Preston Sturges kind of things. That's the thing, is I like His Girl Friday better, like with Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell.
I haven't seen it. I'll have
that
to watch
is...
it.
So bringing up baby is great. I like it. That maybe is the difference with me, right? Is I prefer a more Rosalind Russell character than the Katharine Hepburn character, right?
Interesting.
So the Rosalind Russell character it's basically the front page, but with a female lead. So Rosalind Russell, and the interplay between Rosalind Russell and Cary Grant is much more interesting, but also Cary Grant is playing more of a Cary Grant character. He's not playing like a professor, scientist guy. He's playing a reporter.
I'll watch it with my wife, and she'll then tell me how
she can analyze
how that led to Rose.
Yeah, exactly. Can analyze that.
There was only one Golden Globe nomination. That was the only award I could get out of this film, and they didn't even win it. But it was for Madeline Kahn for Most Promising Newcomer. That was it. No awards for this film at all.
Yeah. So this is the thing, though, is like there's the rom-com format, right?
Yeah. Which this was a rom-com.
But then there's also action, right? So like there's a huge amount of stunts.
Rom-coms have stunts, though, I think.
Sometimes, yeah. To have a film that combines all those things and it is talky and is crazy, but it's not, no one gets shot in the head, right? So Tarantino films, This is what my son said, is his perspective on Tarantino films is like, oh yeah, it's a bunch of talking and then everyone gets killed, right? That's what it is. It's like 2 hours of talking and then a bloodbath. This film is lots of talking.
Lots of gunplay.
Lots of gunplay. Yeah, there are guns. That's true. There's guns and there's car accidents and everything like that. But it's all kind of fun. What I'm wondering is why there aren't more movies like that now, and is it because it's just that people don't want that?
Well, we should look. I bet you there are. We should look and see if we can find them. So, should this film be lost? I think we're saying no.
I'm saying no. You guys can say whatever you want.
Jim, what were your thoughts? Do you like this film?
It was great. Yeah. It'd been years since I saw it, like as a kid, and was very enjoyable, and it was great.
And I haven't forced you to watch it since then.
No,
yeah.
I don't. I haven't seen it in 20 years. I knew you liked it. I remember you liking it a lot. But
I'm a big Babs fan, so I was pro. Should this film be found? I think we're saying that's the question you're posing, Rick. Is would people respond positively to this film nowadays?
I just don't know. Am I a man out of time? Right? I like it, but it is that question. It's different than this question we had about like Wicker Man, which is like, hey kids, you should watch this film, and then they go, ooh, Uncle Rick's a little weird. He recommended this creepy movie to us, and we don't want to talk to him anymore. Whereas this is the opposite. It's kind of like this old dude recommended this movie with these people talking and car crashes, and it was really.
But if I showed my
old-fashioned.
son this film, he would love it. Like
Yeah.
if I forced him to watch it, he would, just like you did with your kids. They loved
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Midsummer is arguably just a ripoff. I haven't seen it yet, but my brother-in-law says you're going to hate it because it's a huge ripoff of The Wicker Man.
Wicker Man, yeah.
So The Wicker Man's come back. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
they did the remake, but that doesn't really count. I didn't see the remake of that, by the way. But Midsummer, I think, is rehashing, because that's what I'm thinking. There might be a film out today or around this time, and it was probably a rom-com that would be comparable to this film. Should this film be rewound, would you watch this film again, Jim?
Oh yeah, I would watch it again immediately just to track the bags to see really forensically follow.
We didn't do the
we kind of
three-card
did.
Monty audit. We should totally do the three-card Monty audit of this film.
You were doing very well in tracking the bags. Okay, that's that.
Yeah, as a
Through the whole
first-time
film.
viewer, yeah, you were doing pretty good.
Better than I was lost
I'm
track.
good at when you go to the ballpark and they have the 3 ball caps and they put the baseball under one of them and then they kind of mix it up on.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at.
They're
going to
say like when the pitcher like secretly gives the first baseman the ball. Don't they?
Oh, I
they
love
don't
that
let-
little
they don't
trick.
let
They
you
don't do that.
in
They don't do that
Major
too
League
often, but I
Baseball.
love that trick. That's like people who don't like sports like love those kind of tricks, and that's what I was. As a person who didn't like sports
playground
but has converted,
shenanigans.
yeah, I love those kind of tricks. And I'm pretty good at guessing whether or not ketchup, mustard, or relish is going to win the race.
Oh, I forgot to mention that Laszlo Kovacs was the cinematographer on this movie, and he. Speaking of like Ryan O'Neal, not talking to Ryan O'Neal, coming into our show, and Laszlo Kovacs. I went to see Easy Rider at the Film Center down in Chicago like 15 years ago or something. It was like a new print, and Laszlo Kovacs was there to introduce it and talk. And there was about 40 people there, 50 people, down at the Siskel Film Center, and he went up and talked, and then there's like just for a little bit, and then I was like, okay, let's watch the movie, and then he came walking down, and then it was like him and the guy who worked at the film center was like, oh, here, these are the best seats, and they came down my aisle, and Laszlo sat right next to me.
Did you talk to him, or did you chicken out like
he was
your
one
brother?
one seat away from him, yeah, and I didn't say anything to him, but he was a seat away, and I was like,
So Easy Rider, Five
I
Easy
don't know.
Pieces.
yeah, he directed all those, or he was the cinematographer for those, but I couldn't
Close
think of anything.
Encounters.
Couldn't think of anything to say. I was
Yeah,
just like,
that's
but I
like-
want, he enjoyed. I'm trying to think what if his response. Oh, I was trying to see like if
You didn't hand him your vape pen?
15 years ago,
yeah, this
man.
was at least 15 years ago.
Pre-vape.
But it was the
PB.
part in Easy Rider when like something like he throws away his watch, really symbolic, and it's kind of cheesy, and people ever kind of laugh. It was like trying to gauge his response when some of the stuff that doesn't hold up or people find very corny now, and it was like. I don't think he cared.
He probably
but
didn't
it
care.
was.
It's like-
It's not. He was just.
He's like the
cinematographer.
focus
Yeah.
puller fucked up in that scene. Sitting there criticizing him.
But I don't. Yeah, I don't remember any reactions. But it was cool to sit sort of next to him for that movie.
Awesome. I had a question. Do you think Foul Play could have been influenced by this film?
With Chevy Chase and
Goldie Hawn.
Goldie Hawn.
and
Boy,
Barry Manilow.
I cannot remember Foul Play.
I remember the poster.
Yeah.
I think Springtime in New England, or no, Ready to Take a Chance Again was the theme song by Barry Manilow. I'm a big Barry Manilow fan.
I mean, Foul Play, it feels like that would be, another screwball comedy. I think that was definitely where they were trying to go with.
With action, and there was
Yeah.
real stakes there. I mean, this one, it didn't feel like there was real stakes.
Yeah.
Just like Bringing Up Baby, it didn't feel like anybody was going to die. But Foul Play, there was the albino character who definitely was going to kill them.
I'm going to have to watch Foul Play.
You have to watch
again.
Foul Play.
I feel like that's got to be at least 30 years ago that I saw that.
That must have been a 70s film, so 10 years after.
It would have been
I-
one of his first, Chevy Chase's first.
I think there's
films.
I think there's a nod to just the San Francisco as a character
Yeah.
thing is definitely there in Foul Play.
I noticed Madeline Kahn was not long, probably the year after this, or was also in the mixed up files of Mrs. Basilea Frankweiler. Did you ever
Wow.
see that?
So
read,
who
read
was-
that book. I don't know if I guess I
Yeah,
saw the movie
was,
version, but that
Anne
was a great book.
Bancroft?
Did you ever read that book?
Oh, that's a great book.
She was-
You've never
she-
read the book?
What are you guys talking about?
I thought
That's
everybody
a
read
common
that.
book.
Yeah, everybody read it.
I thought that was
like
a Jim. That was one of
1970s.
Jim's.
Nope.
Oh, that was a huge book.
The
That
movie,
was
though,
quite
was
a- it's a
Anne
very-
Bancroft in that? Because that would be the Mel Brooks connection.
What's her name? Swedish
Oh,
actress.
that's right.
Ingrid Bergman.
Yeah,
is in-
that's right.
Oh, wow.
is the main.
I
Is
forgot.
Mrs. I think she's
Yeah,
Mrs.
okay,
Basilea
it's not-
Frankweiler.
Yeah, it's not Anne Bancroft. Oh, wow.
Lost and Found and Rewound is fully funded by Lost and Found and Rewound Foundation funds. Lost and Found and Rewound does not use crowdfunding because our listeners have better things to do with their funding. There's no need to post reviews of Lost and Found and Rewound because our listeners have more valuable things to do with their time. In all sincerity, thank you for listening to the show. We truly appreciate it.